Hello, 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 everybody out there in NFTCON. Welcome. This is the talk or a bit of a fireside chat with three of us to speak about blockchain marketing then and NFT marketing now. My name is Simon Bogdanowicz. I'm the founder of Catalyst Global. I've been working in blockchain growth strategy, marketing, and everything in between since early 2017. My team and I have worked with over 50 companies since then. Those companies have went on to raise over $750 million over the course between then and today, 2022. And just happy to be here with the amazing Phu Styles and Mr. Ferris Oweis. And I'll let them introduce themselves and we'll jump right into it.
Hi, everyone. This is Phu Styles from Blockchain PR and, of course, Dcentral, who produces NFTCON. I've been with Blockchain PR since 2017. We've been doing community-driven marketing and PR. And I think one of our biggest, actually the biggest claim to fame was I was part of the mainnet launch team that helped raise over $4 billion in the biggest ICO in history with the EOS blockchain. And so, and last year we were one of the top 3 agencies for marketing and PR in the NFT world. And here we have Ferris.
Nice. Hi, Ferris Oweis, most recently crypto coach, part of that Instigation protocol. Basically for the past 4.5, 5 years, been doing go-to-market for really early stage crypto solutions. And seeing kind of the industry morph and change and kind of reimagine itself over that time period. And then most recently with Crypto Coach, just there's an influx of people interested in entering the space. So helping Web2 people basically with full-time jobs who've dabbled into crypto or just been moonlighting as crypto, spending all their time in their offices researching crypto while having another job, but wanting to work in the space, enter the actual industry itself for the different crypto companies looking for talent, non-technical and technical. So that's been an interesting journey, and yeah, good to see the enthusiasm there.
Awesome. Fantastic, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Your introduction definitely did mine a disservice and a little bit, but we all been OGs. Yeah. I've worked with everyone from Open Platform to Origin Protocol to Haven, now known as Synthetics and the like, everyone between. We also, Ferris, I also work with Kudos, and I'm with Phu and as well as the Dcentral team as well. So all great points, guys. So since we, I guess we can consider ourselves a bit of OGs, you know, it'd be good to look back in the past and just think about where we came from first before we talk about where we are today and then where we're going. So when you recall kind of first getting into, crypto in, 2017, and Ferris, you were 2017, 2018. Here, Ferris, I'll start with you. What do you remember about marketing then? What was working? What wasn't working? What was an obvious kind of, obvious scam and things, and what was also played in the lines of like being compliant, right? Like we were all, or at least you and I, Ferris, were based in the US, so there's always that. You always got to think about that. So love to hear from you, and then Phu, same question.
Yeah, when I think about this, and I think about it, or reflect on it fairly often, I think about like my experiences at ETH Denver's in the past. I remember back then, ETH Denver, I just rolled in. It smelled horrible, but there were some talks going on. Where like this past year, I mean, Simon had to get me in the door actually this year because the line was so long. And the difference between now and then is I think back then you had an initial kind of influx of people that got super wealthy off like Ethereum going from like, basically nothing to 500, 600, 700, and Bitcoin going from, the low hundreds to 10 and then eventually 20 and so forth. And then you had a bunch of speculators in the room and a lot of builders. So it was like a lot of speculators and builders because they wanted to funnel that cash somewhere. Whereas today, I'm seeing it's a lot more speculators, creatives, and marketers. So I'm seeing it's a little less on the builder side. And at the time, like, any ICO kind of like went, right? If you had said the 3 letters, like I'm in. And a lot of builders were like, okay, I'll build that because this is super interesting. And people were able to operate in the unknown and ambiguous nature much more freely. Now, as time has gone on, I think we've seen a lot of more replication solutions. We have like a bunch of exchanges, a bunch of wallets, right? And now I think we're seeing an interesting influx of creatives come into place in the space with NFTs, and they're adding their own flavor to it. And now these NFT launches are kind of like mapping to the sentiments of that ICO phase, where again, it's ambiguous. Again, you have new personalities involved. And again, you have a lot of people that have made a lot of money in one domain, trying to funnel it into kind of the next wave. So I kind of see that as it's the same framework, just different personalities.
Interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. So, you know, I learned about Bitcoin back in 2011, but really got into the blockchain industry in 2017. So before I got into the blockchain industry, I'd go to like small meetups, you know, learn about things with like 20 other people. And then the conferences, and we produced a conference called Crypto BlockCon, which is now called Elevate.
I remember that one.
Yeah, so that was 2018. We produced that first conference, and we had like 500 to 1,000 people, and that was pretty average, and that was like a big deal. And then I was hosting like Crypto Invest Summit and all these other things, and like 1,000 people max, right? And the way we were marketing things back then was just same way that you would market in web too, you know, using Facebook ads, email marketing, and not as much content marketing back then. And the results would garner 500 to 1,000 people, right? Now, and having done, you know, we produced Dcentral this past 2021, and it was like the biggest DeFi NFT conference in history. Over 5,000 people came. So you could see that there's been a huge influx, and part of it is because of culture, right? And so now we're seeing, like, I have to say, like, I used to be one of the few cool kids in the room.
You still are.
And now there are a lot of cool people, which is awesome, right? Because we have a convergence of culture, music, entertainment, and it's bringing a convergence of people from all walks of life. And so like what we saw like 7,000 people this past year versus like 200 people in the previous years, in like 2019, like maybe 1,000 people max. So the marketing now is different because we're very, very focused, at least at Blockchain PR, we're very focused on community building now. So previously, before, when it was just about token raises or ICOs, we focused a lot on crypto marketing, just getting ads out there in a foreign, not, I wasn't doing it in America, but we would post out ads, because in foreign countries you can put all these ads. But now in 2021, 2022, it's all about like Twitterverse and Discords, and building like real communities and really engaging with people. So no one can raise money like they used to without having a community. So I think that's the biggest difference between back then and back now.
And I think you needed traction in much less time. So like back in the day, after the first ICO boom, was like, you go to every conference, like, what are the use cases? What are the use cases? In fact, I just met someone from 500 Startups the other day, and he's like, oh yeah, I met with all the Solana folks like early on. And it's like, yeah, we're building this great thing. It has no use cases yet, right? So even when people were building, they didn't build with use cases in mind, even the upper echelon, right? And, you know, there was like this whole like kind of like 2-year period through a bear market. It's like, you couldn't use things like Aave very easily. You couldn't use things like, all these things were very antiquated, archaic, like it was hard to interact with them, but people believed and they stuck with it, right? And then you had all these technical people like trying to convince you like, this is why it's useful. And then all of a sudden, as the market caps raised just slightly, then they bring it to higher, they bring on more business people. But today, I don't think the use cases is the problem.
I haven't even asked about today, Ferris. Let's get to that in a moment.
Okay. Yeah, because it's not the priority anymore.
But it's hard to like, it's hard to like not talk about yesterday and also not talk about it in the context of today, right, guys? So it's like, you know, because it's natural. So I was trying to really focus you guys on thinking back, but it's very hard not related to today because it's so different. It's similar, if you will, you know, same, but different, as they say in Thailand, you know. So it's, you know, there are similarities that always are in the threads, but I agree. Yeah, I agree with both of you. Something else I want to add to it that I've seen is, back in 2017, you know, my company and I were helping a lot of companies write white papers, less figure out community, more so figure out, okay, where are the investors, you know, and then also going to investors in terms of trying to figure out, hey, who are these already early institutions or early, like, kind of high net worth adopters that will invest in your ICO and things, or retail investors. Now, yeah, it's all about the community. Also, the barriers of entry, like you're alluding to, Ferris, I think have been changed a lot. Where now, even like my wife's sister now, she has more NFTs than I hold, and she's telling me about different whitelists to get into. So the pie has greatly expanded. And I think over the course of time, everyone's thinking different things, like, oh, it's going to be STOs that really expand the pie, or it's going to be some new evolution of ICOs, that are still kind of decentralized and not regulated, or it's going to be gaming. And then it really came from last couple of years, it really came from DeFi into NFTs. But now NFTs, it's great because it's easy to understand. A lot of people can really get into it quite easily. The barriers of entry are low, and community is so important, that to the point where there's people, I don't know if you saw, like on online jobs.ph, in those areas where you can hire like virtual assistants, literally like the top jobs on those repeatedly for ads is like whitelist grinders and things like that, or community managers, looking for great community managers willing to pay more and more and more, just because it's so hard, right? So the average great community person is actually managing 5 to 8 projects at a time, not just one project anymore.
Sure.
And so that's what we've seen in our business as well. So like I've grown my community management team to like over 40 people in the last like 2 months, because there's just so much demand, right? And also I see what's happening in the market by like the type of inbound that we get. And like literally when I say everyone and their mother is launching an NFT.
Yeah, NFT is the new ICO, really.
Yeah. And so that's the difference now, right? So like before we were marketing, the demographic was for like accredited investors, and people who are a very small group of people. But now we can really target a retail investor, because anyone can invest in an NFT. So that's where the marketing has changed now because of that, So now we have to look at messaging much more differently and branding much more differently. Like before, you could during the early days, you could just market a white paper and raise $4 billion. Now, you could still raise a lot of money, not that much money, but you need like a product with like a clear branding and a message that a retail
roadmap, like an actually executable roadmap,
Yeah. And messaging and branding that a retail investor, your mom, your grandma can understand. And then also, if we're talking about the NFT space, not, a lot of people who are getting into it don't necessarily know what it even is, but they like it. And because they like the hype, they'll buy into it. So
I love the belonging, right? It's all about belonging now. You find your tribe or multiple tribes, and then you're like, oh, I talk to my wife the same amount as I talk to my best buds group on Discord, right? It's like you start thinking like it's a part of your daily routine almost.
And I think people are okay with altruistic visions, because like in the previous days, right, where it was like, okay, where are the use cases? Like, how do I interact with this? I'm not going to interact with that because I don't understand it, or it's very hard for me. Now, I think it's the exact opposite. I think that people are like, like Krause House, for example, that wants to try to buy an NBA team, right? Like, will that happen? I don't know. But like, if it does happen, I'd be really excited about it. So I'm willing to spend 0.5 ETH to at least mint this on the opportunity that may exist in a very distant future, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the barriers to entry are like not necessarily completely gone, but people are more willing to take risks for something that on a belief. Whereas previously, because it was more tech and infrastructure driven, that was very hard to embrace. Where this is like, and it also, I think one thing to mention on the marketing note, you're finding a lot of good designers coming into space now. So these aren't like some like, like websites you can't understand and like words you can't understand, like, Turing and like sharding and like things like this. This is like basically saying, hey guy, you want to buy an NBA team? Cool, mint here. And like, here's how we're going about it. And it's like people are.
And the partnerships with real world brands, right? Like F1 racers to your favorite like basketball stadium or something else. I think that's big.
More like a media company.
Yeah. Well, here guys, we only have 30 seconds left. So I'm going to try to give you, at least give us all 30 seconds plus a little bit more. Where I just want to ask, not about price prediction or anything else, but like say this time, 2023, March 2023, where do you feel that we're going to be going in terms of just the NFT market, and how will kind of even marketing evolve for NFTs? Let's just concentrate on that. From today until 1 year from now, what do you think is going to happen? What's going to be some of the kind of revolutionary changes to look out for, if you will?
I think interactive NFTs will be huge. 3D NFTs are becoming more popular, but interactive NFTs, because metaverses are being created everywhere and becoming ubiquitous, and people understand it. I think that marketing will just be built into these NFTs themselves, where you can just join a community and you as a regular person, you share in some reward or something, and and a regular person will be responsible for the marketing. Does that make sense? Because right now we focus a lot on like influencer marketing, and we pay like bigger people with a lot of followers to share something. But I think next year, in a couple of years, we'll be using micro influencers and average people.
Yeah, activating your tribe, your own tribe. Yeah, to do more. Like great software like Gleam is doing that, right? Just to build awareness on yourself, network effects. No, it's a great point. Ferris, I want to hear from you real quick. Quick.
I was going to use the word tribalism. I think you're going to see some consolidation, and people start to kind of like market within specific ecosystems. So like the ape community has their non-fungible labs, has theirs with like fluff and ASM. So I think you're going to see a lot of like, call it, what do you call it? Like in marketing with parameters, to basically grow influence within certain ecosystems. And then, people obviously stay in and then hold as a result. So I think that's going to be happening quite significantly.
Nice. And I was at one thing that neither of you mentioned, which I think is really going to be big. It's really, I think the convergence of NFT and DeFi are really going to change the game in terms of getting people from NFTs into understanding what decentralized finance is, how to make money on staking your own NFTs, things like that, and how to market that well, to like have the ecosystem just build on itself in that capacity. So I think it's going to be really exciting stuff. Cool. So where can we find you guys? Where can everyone watching get a hold of you?
I'm at Phu Styles on everything, and blockchain. PHUSTYLES, and my company is blockchainpr.io. We are actually launching the first metaverse office inside Polka City metaverse in April. So we're the first agency to be. You can literally visit us, and we can have this conversation inside my own metaverse. So
that's pretty cool. As long as we can get a hold of you, because I know you're a renowned traveler.
Cryptocoach.career, and then on Twitter, Ferris_says.
Well, thanks, guys. And I'm again Simon Bogdanowicz. You can find me more about my company at catalystglobal.io. And thank you for joining us today. It's been a great time. Thanks, guys, for your time as well.
All right. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.